Hey everyone, long time no see. If you subscribe to this channel and for some reason don't know who I am, I've made quite a few cut content videos relating to Telltale's The Walking Dead. I also did some reviews and other stuff, but mostly people are here for the cut content. Anyway, let's just jump right into it. The 400 Days DLC was an interesting experiment. Telltale were trying to see how they could make use of branching paths and choices in a story where you play as multiple different characters, and I personally think it's pretty good. In the end though, it's a bit disappointing considering how we were kinda lied to regarding how important it was. But judging it completely on its own, I still think it's great. But like any Telltale game, it was not without its cuts, and boy were there some nasty ones. This is a video I've wanted to do for about 2 years now, since the release of my Season 2 videos in 2017, and I'm glad I finally get to make it. I'm a little sad though because it's not quite what I hoped it would be. Let me explain. There's actually not a whole lot of cut content in the DLC itself, only scraps, bits and pieces, almost all of it uncontextualized. It wouldn't really make for that great of a video. But then, something terrible happened. The Walking Dead Collection released, which, if you're unaware, was a mediocre and insulting cash grab that Telltale crapped out in an effort to try and save their sinking studio. It was a simple touch-up from a graphic perspective, and it's debatable if it even improves on the original games at all, considering how many bugs it caused.
It's one hell of a mess.
But this isn't a comparison video. The one saving grace of the collection was its contents, and goddamn did we hit the jackpot with this. For whatever reason, the 400 Days content present in the collection edition of the game has a shit ton of unused things that nobody's ever known about before. Things like unused voice files.
Damn, I hate these things. Well, I think they got the rest. Look, I've seen a lot of shit. You guys don't even want to know. Believe me, this is bad.
Models, animations, and amazingly, an entire unused chapter that involved Tavia. One that was completely different from the final version. The drawback and sad downfall to all of this, however, is that the collection is a console exclusive game. Not only that, but because it's an updated version of the game, it means we can't just shove the files into the PC version and play them. So sadly, it's just not going to be possible to show you any animations. Instead, I'm just going to have to show you the names and explain what they are and why. Sounds boring, I know, but it's what we've got. Before we really get into it though, I want to give a shout out to my friend Kett, who made the initial discovery and also helped me make this video. Anyway, let's begin by talking about the chapter that never was. So, we know Tavia, right? She's the black lady we play at the end of 400 Days and who later shows up in Season 2. In the final game, she approaches the group, asks if they'll come with her, and depending on your choices throughout the episode, they will or will not. The episode ends with them throwing their photographs in the fire and moving on from their past to a hopeful, brighter future. Obviously, Tavia's chapter was supposed to be very different to what it was in the original game. That's the point of my video. In the 2013 release of the DLC on PC, things look pretty final and there's really not a whole lot of content to speak of. But there was one bizarre and honestly pretty creepy thing. Tavia has two models. Her normal model that we've seen before and are familiar with, but she also had another model, and this model shows what seems to be a pretty disturbing surgical cut through her clothes with a stitched up wound. Of course, this model makes zero sense to us in the final game, since the player never actually gets to control Tavia. Besides, you know, choosing the chapter pictures at the truck stop and dialogue near the end. So why in the hell does it look like she just gave away one of her kidneys? For the longest time, nobody knew. Not even me. But ever since the collection edition, we've got our answer. Kind of. Okay, backstory done. You got that? Good. Now, here's the confusing part. Annie. You remember Annie, right? Of course you do. You don't? Well, this is Annie. And so is this. What? That's Stephanie. No, it isn't, silly. It's Annie. Why do I say that? Well, this is where it gets really weird, because it seems like Stephanie was originally called Annie. However, there is an Annie model in the game files, and it looks like this. As you can see, it kinda resembles Bonnie. It could be an early version of Bonnie, but I'm doubtful of that for a few reasons. It would only pad out this video even longer, so for the sake of argument, let's just consider her her own character and call her Annie. And call Stephanie Stephanie so we don't confuse things. The reason that I say Stephanie is called Annie is that Stephanie uses all of Annie's animations, and is even called Annie many times in the game files. I have no idea why Telltale called this model Annie if Stephanie was supposed to be called Annie, but that's Telltale for you. They don't make any fucking sense. Are you with me so far? God, I hope so. Okay, so let's actually talk about the chapter itself. There are no subtitles, dialogue, or anything to help us piece together what was supposed to happen. But there are lots of animations and chore files that help explain how things would have played out. Because of this, it's not certain I've got all the details correct, but the story is pretty much as close as you can possibly get. Stephanie originally had nothing to do with Shell. At all. Instead, she was actually a friend of Tavia's. Tavia's chapter would begin with them both walking along a hill. It's not clear how, but it seems as though Tavia falls from the hill. She tries to grab onto something and Stephanie reaches out her hand to help her, but Tavia falls down anyway. It's okay though, and she doesn't appear to be injured too badly. Stephanie then slides down the hill and helps Tavia get back up. They see the truck stop across the way and they decide to check it out for supplies. It's likely at this point that either Tavia or Stephanie discovered the notice board and sees that there's a settlement not too far away. At this point, either Tavia or Stephanie discovers there's a padlock on the vending machine and it's full of supplies. They manage to break the padlock and both stuff the ammo and medicine into Stephanie's bag. Speculation, but it also looks like they were experimenting with first-person segments again, and I think this scene was supposed to be a gameplay element, like the one in episode 3 where Lee has to shove the pharmacy supplies into his bag. The noise from them breaking open the vending machine likely attracts the attention of walkers, forcing Tavia and Stephanie to try to fight back. At this point, there's a shooting gallery where Tavia must shoot the zombies in first person. It all becomes too much though, and the pair are left to try and find higher ground in an attempt to survive. They climb the truck stop and manage to get on top of the restaurant. Amazingly, just a few months ago, Kett and myself discovered a demo reel showing an animation of Tavia helping Stephanie climb up. That is literally the only thing I can show you in terms of animation. Stephanie makes another leap towards the other side of the building and makes it across. It's not clear how, but unfortunately, Tavia falls. And as if that wasn't bad enough, she actually breaks her back, leaving her helpless on the ground. During this time, she attempts to shoot back while Stephanie tries to find a way to save her. And as if that wasn't bad enough, her gun breaks, leaving her helpless and defenseless. But just as it looks like the end, Stephanie manages to save her just in time by taking control of the prison bus, and presumably driving them both away. As Tavia is in critical condition, they have no choice but to go and seek help from the 400 Days crew at their camp. It's not exactly clear from this point on how exactly the next step of events play out. From what I can gather, the 400 Days crew do agree to help Tavia. They set up a table and Wyatt and Vince help carry Tavia on top of it. Regarding Tavia's wound on her side, it's not exactly clear how that happened, but it's highly likely that she impaled herself by landing on something when she fell. Kinda similar to another character that we know. The crew at this point decide to perform surgery on Tavia as Stephanie comforts her. But unfortunately, walkers arrive, and the 400 Days crew attempt to defend themselves. Even Becca gets involved, and is referenced using a hatchet as well as a pistol. We then have another first-person struggle from Tavia's perspective, and Russell would jump in and save Tavia from the attacking zombie. I'm guessing it would have been similar to how Lee fights the babysitter in episode 1. At this point, an argument breaks out among the gang, and they argue over what they should do next. Leave Tavia as their position is compromised, or take her with them. This final choice would not be decided by the player, obviously, but by the choices you've made throughout the episode as a whole, similar to how it is in the final game. After that, I've got zero clue what was supposed to happen next. From what I can gather, if the crew decides not to help Tavia, Stephanie gets pissed off and threatens them with her gun. There's mention of Bonnie punching Stephanie, with Russell presumably trying to stop them both from fighting, as well as reference to Stephanie getting shot, probably as a result of the argument. Either way, a choice is made and the group separate. And that's all I've got. I know it's not quite as elaborate as it could be, but as you can see, the finale was a lot different than what we know. Another thing that's clear is that this was cut very late into development. Leaving aside the fact that Tavia's chapter in the final game is extremely short, like less than 5 minutes, and that there are still some leftover files in the game referencing this cut chapter, one of the designers for Season 2, Stephen McManus, actually mentioned this chapter in a meeting while he was working on Season 2, and someone had to tell him that that whole scene was cut because he thought it was still the original ending. I mean, that just goes to show you how far along it was before they decided to change it. It's never been cleared up exactly why this chapter was changed in the first place. Perhaps it had something to do with making Tavia an important character for Season 2. Considering what ended up happening with the 400 Days characters, it's all quite underwhelming. I feel like they should have either gone all out with the characters if they didn't plan on using them again for S2. But it looks like they did want to do more with them. It's just sad it didn't translate, and in the end all we got are ambiguous fates of the characters and a single voice line. It's disappointing, to say the least. Anyway, that's all for this video. I hope you learned something and enjoyed it. That's all I've got to say about 400 Days for now. I just want to say that I apologise for disappearing for months. I've had a pretty turbulent year and things have been a bit too hectic for me to be able to make videos, so I'm glad I finally have time to make more content. I also wanted to take the time to talk about my channel itself. Obviously it's a bit limited now that The Walking Dead is done, but there's still a number of videos that I would like to make, and I want to talk about them real briefly. So here's the deal. My next video is going to be an update to my Season 2 cut content series. Since 2017, I've discovered a bit more over that time, and it probably deserves a video. It won't be a long video though, just a short update on things I wasn't aware of. The video after that one is a surprise, and I think you're going to really like it. It's a video you probably never expected to get, but it's about time that I talk about it. You'll see. Anyway, that's all for this video. I'll see you in my next one. I hope. If you're not all gone. Okay, bye.